Hi, and welcome to another episode of CX Disruptors. My name is Jared. I'm in product marketing here with Cognigy. And today I'm very pleased to have an unusual guest who's actually with Cognigy today, and that is Thijs. I'm going to let Thijs introduce himself because he can probably do a better job than me.
Thanks, Jared. Hey, yeah, it's Thijs, actually with Cognigy for more than 5 years now. I lead our consulting and pre-sales, so I'm very much involved with the latest and greatest in technology, and we'll have to focus on how to apply it, right? Making sure that it's not just AI for the sake of AI, but using
Yep.
it for good, for better, for making
I,
awesome projects.
I like to think if you had an unofficial title, it would be like, chief philosopher or thought leader, at least from our conversations. But
Cheers.
I don't want to tell people, I want to prove it. So we'll start with big
Oh
picture.
boy.
So let's stay realistic here, and let's think in the next 3 years, right? Very short time frame. What do you think customer service is going to look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think there's a couple of aspects. Obviously, there's AI, right? Generative AI in particular. So generative AI has proved to be very disruptive, very powerful. Then there's the reality of larger corporations, right? Enterprises. Then there's the technology market, the ecosystem, the contact center rollout projects, right? And all of that somehow needs to come together, right? The one thing I will say about it is that I am pretty sure of is that I think we will move away from AI with the sole purpose of automating stuff, and we will move towards utilizing AI as a way to improve customer service. I think that within the next 3 years we will have text to speech, so AI voices that are so realistic that you'll actually like them, right? You don't go like, it's an automated experience. You go like, hey, this is pretty cool, right? It understands me really, really well. Oh, it can find information so much faster. Hey, I wasn't put on hold anymore, right?
Yeah.
We all know the experience. You call, you do identification, and then you ask a question, and then the customer service agent, you always have to look stuff up, right? Which is perfectly fine, I guess, right? But with AI, I think we'll get to a point where it will know a lot of stuff, and it will be able to answer that really quickly in a very clear and pleasant way. So the customer experience, I think, this aspect will finally improve, right? Because so far it hasn't really. There was always more focus on the automation aspect.
So I get, and that's something that I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about is text to speech and speech to text, because they're kind of considered these little add-on services, but at the same time, people recognize them immediately and don't like them. So it's an interesting thought that even improvements only in that can already increase like customer adoption and acceptance of things like that.
Yeah. I
And I
think
guess
you're
combined
absolutely
with
crucial.
knowledge, you were talking a little bit about search, so I guess you're sort of implying like a different sort of knowledge management in combination with that.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think that to start with the speech to text and text to speech, right? It's the first, as to your point, it's the first thing you notice, right? If if you get to an IVR or an automated, voice experience, right? You'll notice, and you go like, maybe it's okay, right? But if there's something urgent, if you need roadside assistance, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's not the thing that you're actually, happy with, right? You'll probably play along because you realize it's a system, you have to go through it, right?
Yeah.
I think that when speech to text and text to speech, like the next iteration will be so good that you will probably not even recognize, at least not immediately, that it's an automated experience. Whether that's good or not, that's a different discussion, right? There's ethical implications, of course, and it goes for all of the AI stuff.
Yeah.
But what it does mean, in my mind, is that you will not feel this initial, oh boy, it's an automated experience. You'll go like, okay, this is something that can actually help me and it can actually understand me, right? And then the latency, the snappiness of it, the sound of it, the fact that it understands, like the way you express stuff without having to speak like a robot yourself, right?
Exactly.
All of that coming together will allow for a much more fluent experience that is, I would say almost at the level of a human in terms of the way you interact, right? And then the second aspect, the search, is one of those things that you can now automate, finding information. GPT does it really well, right?
Yep.
GPT will spit out any answer, right? If you feed it a PDF document, it will find an answer in that PDF document. That's what contact centers are, right? Huge
Yep.
knowledge management systems, many standard operating procedures, many, questions and answers,
Yep.
and AI is really good at finding the answers to very specific questions in no time, right? We're talking 200 milliseconds or something like that, right? So
Nice.
you add all of that up, yeah, that's where I draw my conclusion from, that I think it will be a lot better in the coming 2 to 3 years in terms of customer experience. Yeah.
Well, when we get there, then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, which is how do you deal with setting expectations, right? Because if it's so good, people think it's a human, you're
Yeah.
going to have you're going to have a problem when they figure out it's a bot versus
Yeah.
knowing it's a bot in advance, but actually being happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and it's a very good point, very good question, right? So, I think that there's this ethical consideration, right? I think that you should inform people that it's an automated experience, or at least that it's not a human, right?
Yep.
To your point, if people they'll find out at some point, maybe not, but suppose they find out, right? You that's not great, right? You were under the impression that you were talking to a human, right? And you find out it wasn't a human all along, and you kind of feel, I don't know, maybe that doesn't feel great, right? So I think that's one aspect, and I think that people need to kind of play along as well in a way, right? These
Yep.
experiences, they aren't perfect, and they won't be able to deal with every situation, right?
Yeah, of
Just like
course.
GPT cannot help with everything, right? And so from a functional, pragmatic point of view,
Yep.
it helps that the human, so that you calling, right, that you realize that it is an automated experience, so that you kind of play along, right? You go like, okay, let's keep the small talk to a minimum, right? I could ask
Exactly.
about, I don't know, politics, right? Or last night's ball game, right? And it might answer, right? But really I should probably stick to the topic at hand, because that will probably work better, right? So
Yeah.
those two aspects I think are really important to consider there.
Now you mentioned a minute or two ago something which I want to talk more about, and that is kind of this convergence, this sort of all these different solutions in the market. Where if you look at, for example, if you just go to say 10 websites of CCaaS, CPaaS, CRM,
Yeah.
CAI
Yeah.
vendors, and that's only to name a few,
Yeah.
you really get the impression nowadays they all have very similar messaging. They're all sort of developing not just how they talk about their solutions, but how they're developing them, all kind of into the same direction.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit, like where is everybody going? Why are these separate categories all trying to get to the same goal,
Yeah.
and why?
Yeah, great question. So I don't have the answer to where everything is going. Except, I mean, I wish I wish I knew that. That would be fantastic. I
Be
do
a
think
millionaire.
that yeah, I do think that um, the world used to be a little simpler, right? You had the contact center. The contact center was typically not in the cloud, right? Contact centers are very late to the cloud, to this whole cloud game, right? The most
Yep.
larger contact center infrastructure still run on-prem.
Oh yeah.
And then you had the CRM. Of course, you need a customer relationship management. You need the CRM, and then you maybe had some sort of digital engagement suite, right? Something that you did live chat with. Maybe that was part of your CRM, maybe not, right?
Mhm.
But contact centers used to be really focused on voice, right? Voice routing, workforce management, agent availability, stuff like that. And then, of course, there's then came AI. Yeah, the dialog flows and the IBM Watsons, right? So those used to be software development kits, frameworks
Yep.
for data scientists, for programmers, right? And now all of that is converging, right? So this AI thing, a conversational AI, chatbots as we call it, or conversational as we call it, those offerings developed into very mature platforms, enterprise platforms like Cognigy, right? So these platforms can do many channels. They can do voice by now as well. They can hook into the contact center. They can
Yep.
do a live chat typically as well. Most conversational AI platforms have some sort of live chat offering as well. And then at the same time, the contact center, the contact center is starting to use AI as well, because of
Yep.
course, right? Agent assistance. There's so many things that you can do with AI, and the contact center is becoming a lot more about digital channels as well,
Yep.
right? So this is not in the domain of digital engagement suites anymore. This has been
Exactly.
moved into the contact center, like literally in the last 2 years. Like the larger contact centers, they started to offer channels like WhatsApp, and it used to be an afterthought, but those are now at the
Out
core
of the
of
box
customer
features, yeah.
experience. Exactly. Yeah.
Or I was going to say
Yeah.
Salesforce, just as another example
Yeah.
from a totally different direction. They were all CRM.
Yeah.
Now they
Exactly.
have their own CCaaS offering. They have their own
Yeah.
bots with
Yeah.
AI. And
Yeah.
you're thinking, wait, I thought Salesforce was CRM. Why are they
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
CCaaS and bots, right?
Exactly. It's the same with Zendesk, right? And
Yep.
Freshdesk and other dynamics from Microsoft. And I think that's great. Honestly, I think it's because I do believe that you need to you need to have this. You need to be able to offer all of that, right? If you want to offer a good customer experience, you cannot just go like, oh, you need to call us, right? But at the same time, you could probably not just go and say like, okay, you can only reach us on WhatsApp either, right? You
Yep.
probably need to offer the channels that your customers want. You need some form of automation, therefore AI, right? Because there's simply not enough humans to always pick up the phone immediately, right? Or to always reply on WhatsApp immediately. And you need to have all of the customer data, right? You want to understand when there's an open ticket when someone calls, right? So that you need to have them explain everything again, right? That's of course in the CRM. So all of that needs to come together. The question just is, which component are you going to get where, right? And that's where there's basically two philosophies. There's okay, you need to have everything in one platform, right?
Yep.
And then there's you need to have you need to have a best of breed, right? You want to use the right tool for the right purpose. And that's I guess what this whole thing is about. And then the question is, how much of the AI are you going to put, are you going to buy from a contact center vendor versus how much are you going to buy from an AI vendor, like Cognigy, for example. And I think
Well,
that's going to be very, very exciting. Because with GPT, with generative AI has become a lot more accessible and a lot more powerful, right? So that means that AI vendors need to kind of up their game a little bit, right? They need to offer more. It's not just about offering some sort of AI. You want to make
yep.
sure that you offer amazing experiences through AI, and that's what I think will happen. I think that this I think that the overall constellation, I think it will stay roughly the same. I think that most of the digital stuff will go into the contact center, right? Um, or the CRM. I don't think there will be many dedicated digital engagement suites anymore.
Yep.
I do think that AI will play such an important role that contact center vendors are not going to live up to what customers want, right? Um, I
That
think there's
kind of
more
brings me.
require more for that. Yeah.
No, I was going to say we're already kind of getting into the next question, which is sort of, what are the implications for buyers, right? Like if I'm, a CIO, a CTO, a head of
Yeah.
CX, and I'm trying to think, what is it that I actually need to buy, right? What is it? How should I choose? And I say, okay, so Salesforce is really great at CRM. They do have, some messaging, some live chat. They have
Yeah.
some ticketing. They have some AI. And then I say, oh, well, Zendesk has,
Yeah.
ticketing and live chat and like sort of kind of CRM, sort of kind of knowledge management.
Yeah.
Cognigy is say like really great at the conversational AI, automation, channels.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Because I may say like, look, I'm 100% convinced of Salesforce in the CRM, but realistically, are they going to be able to compete with OpenAI or Google or, I mean, Anthropic? Pick any other AI vendor whose
Yeah.
core business is AI. So,
Yeah.
and all I'm seeing is platforms, right? Everybody's got their own platform with the same 10 things.
Yeah.
What do I do?
I think it's there's no easy answer to it. My advice would be make sure that whatever you buy, right, that it's extensible, that it can communicate with other stuff, right? So you want to have something that has strong APIs, well documented APIs, right? You want to have the flexibility. I would not want to bet everything on one vendor. We saw how OpenAI essentially disrupted Google, right? Like, and this will be something that will be very dynamic in the coming years, right? There will be a lot of disruption going on through AI, and I think companies need to benefit from that. As a CIO, you will want to benefit from that, right? And I think the only way to do that is to make sure that not everything is locked into one vendor, like one technology. You want to have I would say you want to have a best of breed. You want to have a strong platform, of course. You want to have a strong CRM. You want to have a strong contact center. But I think a lot of emphasis should be placed on AI, right? Because that's the disruptor, that's the differentiator. So I would definitely go for a strong AI player and not expect CRM and contact center vendors to provide all of that at the level that dedicated AI vendors will provide that. That's my advice. Yeah.
So I guess, in other words, you're saying that AI will be such a critical piece of infrastructure in all of the solutions in CRM
Yeah.
and messaging,
Yeah.
that instead of saying I want the leading CCaaS, I want the leading CRM, it's I want the leading AI solution
Yeah.
that I can then plug everything else into.
Yeah, so or at least make AI, consider AI the differentiator, right? In
Okay.
your tech stack, like that's the main thing. You would want to have the best of everything, ideally, right?
Yeah.
If you have unlimited budget and time and resources, but I think that it will be easier to swap, like maybe an agent workspace, right? Than like very well trained company specific AI models, right? That have been
Yeah.
thought about and trained on your customers' data with all the embeddings and all of that stuff, right? And I think that that's what where the focus should be at, right? Making sure that your company can benefit from it. Because if you have this conversational AI stack taken care of, right? Because you have very strong knowledge search, you have those processes, then you can deploy it on any channel. Any conversational AI platform supports more than 10 channels, right? You can even assist your agents with them. You can with it. You can offer self-service on voice, on chat. So you become a lot more flexible if that's the thing that you focus on. And then the agent workspace itself, it's important, of course, right? But whether that sits in Teams, whether that stays in the contact center, right? No one really knows. The underlying AI is what was really driving all of it, right? That's at least my point of view in the, let's say, midterm.
All right. Well, we've only got time for one more question, so I have to
Sure.
pick from the
Yeah.
two last ones. All right. It's always terrible. Okay. I'll pick this one. So we've talked a lot about generative AI. Do you see that having a bigger impact on the customer-facing side or on the agent-facing side? Because right now, at least a lot of the hype we hear is more on the customer side, and we hear very little about all the use cases or the value that it could bring to agents.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting question. So the thing with what we call agent assist, right? Like assisting agents through AI, right? So you have a call come in, the agent sits in the contact center, right? And they have a dialogue with a customer, and then they have this pop-up AI that suggests answers and suggests the things that they should say, right? There's a little paradox with it. And the paradox is that if you can assist the agent really well, right? If you train your AI for that, you have everything connected and it works really well, then why put the agent in between? Why not just use that for customer self-service, right? Because if it works well enough, why not help the customer directly? And I think there's a lot to say for having the agent, right? The agent is way better at empathy. Then there's compliancy. Certain things need to be handled by humans, right?
And
But I
not
do
everything
think
can be modeled. I mean, I know I've been
exactly,
in complex,
exactly,
problems like traveling internationally with
yeah,
multiple people, and there's no
exactly.
self-service process.
Exactly, and I think that's what the role of the human will be. The human will orchestrate it, right? The AI will find specific details. It will suggest that it will assist the human with finding information in certain systems. It will maybe even help the human with formulating certain things, right? Or looking up like a booking status or a ticket status and summarize what's been discussed so far. That's what AI is really good at. But what then needs to happen is something that humans tend to be really good at, right? And the human hears when the process doesn't, or the human realizes when a process doesn't fit, when they have to be human and show empathy. And I think this is a best of both worlds approach. So I think that there's a lot that will be done in that space, right? So the initial focus, of course, is on customer self-service, right? Customer facing automations and experience. But I think that the agent experience, if you will, there will be we'll have a lot of focus and a lot of attention in the coming 2 to 3 years. Yeah, that's at least what we see, and I think it makes sense, right? There's a lot to improve there. Yeah.
And I mean, I think I think I also phrased it a little too black and white, because the reality is, if you're assisting the agent so well, like in the example you gave,
Mhm.
in a way that is customer facing, right? That still goes right through to
Exactly.
the customer.
Exactly.
And by assisting the customer,
Yeah.
that indirectly helps the agent who's not getting all of the, the tier one,
Yeah.
repetitive stuff. So,
Exactly.
I mean, they're probably more connected than the question sounded like.
Yeah, it's really the interplay, right? The
Yeah.
AI will do some of the trivial stuff, right? Verifying the customer, making sure that it's the right person, looking up the ticket information, and then does a warm handover to the human agent, who then doesn't need to read up on everything, right? Everything will be there from the get-go as soon as the handover takes place, and the agent will be able to greet the customer. It will already be briefed on what's going on, right? And to your point, yes, that allows for a much better customer experience. So in the end, it is indeed all about the customer experience. No.
All right, Thijs. As much as I would love to keep talking to you, I'm on the clock here. Thank you so much for joining and sharing all of your insights today.
Very
And for
welcome.
everyone watching, don't forget to check back as we are adding new episodes all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.